Please, buy me and make me your slave, whispered the alien girl chained like a dog. Cold rain fell, without pause, across the upper terrace of Surrealist Quay, coating the stone ground with a thin sheen that reflected the dim lanterns lining the walkway. People gathered in a half-circle around a disciplined post, most of them watching quietly, not out of concern but curiosity. The air smelled of wet metal, sea salt, and boiled kelp drifting up from the lower docks. A young alien woman knelt at the base of the post, an ankle cuff locked to a short chain fixed in the stone. Her skin was a clear emerald tone, slightly reflective when wet. Long white hair clung to her shoulders and chest. She kept her back straight despite the rain, trying to preserve some dignity. Her tide wrap was thin, slit high on one thigh to allow movement on docks, but now it exposed her to the cold. A mica fiber shawl hung unevenly, sliding off her right shoulder and revealing how her ribs pushed against her skin each time she breathed. Her hands rested on her lap, fingers tense from holding still for too long. Emotion, she felt trapped. Show, her jaw clenched, and she swallowed with difficulty as the steward called out her fate again. The steward, a middle-aged man in a rainproof coat, read from a tablet. Performance bond. For weeks owed, anyone can assume responsibility for her labor and care. Bond fee is 60 credits. Most of the crowd stayed silent. A few whispered about whether she deserved to be there. One person scoffed and walked off. No one moved closer to help. Oren Vale stood near the back, watching. He was 33, human, and owned a small tea house a short walk down the terrace stairs. Once, he served as a reconnaissance scout for Border Patrol, trained to read people and environments with precision. He had left that work 3 years ago after seeing too much avoidable harm. Now, he focused on running a calm, clean business that offered warmth, food, and a quiet corner for those who needed it. He believed structure and care could keep people from becoming desperate in the first place. Emotion. He felt a steady anger at the sight of her being displayed. Show. His shoulders squared and he adjusted his coat collar to step forward. He approached the post, boots splashing through shallow puddles. The alien woman raised her head a little, her eyes alert despite exhaustion. She seemed ready to defend herself with words if necessary. His presence caught the steward's attention. "You assuming the bond?" the steward asked. "I'm considering it," Oren said. His voice stayed calm, but he assessed her condition the way he once assessed injured civilians. Slight tremors in her hands, skin pale beneath the emerald tone at the knuckles, and controlled breathing to hide pain. "How long has she been out here?" "Since morning," the steward replied. "Punishment for unlicensed labor. She interfered with regulated food distribution." The woman spoke, voice strained but clear. "Buy me and make me your slave." She stared directly at Oren. There was no plea in her tone. She was using the legal phrase required to trigger a bond transfer, choosing the wording that would open a path out of the street punishment. Emotion. She felt desperate to leave the public display, but not weak. Show. Her fingers curled slightly against the stone to stay grounded when she spoke. Oren understood the system. The phrase was intentionally dehumanizing, part of a process abused by some who wanted cheap labor. It was also the only language that allowed removal from the post. He disliked the rule, but refusing her meant leaving her here for weeks. "I won't own you," Oren said quietly, "but I'll get you off this street." The steward raised an eyebrow. 60 credits. You take full responsibility for her until the bond ends. Work health reports. If she fails, you pay the penalty. Oren didn't hesitate. He transferred the credits. The steward stamped a thin metal slip and handed it over. Oren crouched to unlock the cuff. He paused with the key in his hand. "I'm removing it now. I'll touch your ankle." She nodded. When the cuff clicked open, her leg twitched from the sudden freedom. He stood and removed his coat, placing it around her shoulders. The coat was heavy and still warm from his body heat. "Can you stand?" Oren asked. She tried to get up, but her legs shook. He extended his hand, palm up, no grabbing. When she placed her hand in his, he supported her gently. Once steady, she released his hand on her own. People in the crowd muttered. Some stared with disapproval. She tricked him. Why would he take her? He must want something. Oren ignored them and guided her through the lane, giving her space to walk without touching unless she faltered. They moved past rain-slicked stalls and shuttered shops. A large wind organ stood at the edge of the terrace, metal reeds producing a low, uneven tone as the storm wind passed through. The sound vibrated through the walkway like a warning. The woman glanced sideways. "You don't know me. Why step in? You shouldn't be soaking on a stone in the rain for trying to eat." Oren said, "My tea house is close. You can warm up there. People will think something about it," she said. "They usually do," he replied. "I choose who I help." He led her down a short stairway to a wooden building with lanterns under the awning. The sign above the door read the Ninth Current. He unlocked it and held the door for her. Warm air drifted out carrying the scents of brewed seed coffee, roasted herbs, and baked root crisps. She stepped inside cautiously, as if expecting a trap. Emotion, she felt unsure of safety. Show. She kept the coat wrapped tight and stayed close to the wall rather than the center of the room. The tea house interior was small but clean. Wood counters, polished stone cups stacked neatly, steam rising from a heating unit in the back. A row of heat pipes along the side wall gave steady warmth. Oren closed the door behind them and lit a few more lamps to brighten the room. "You can sit by the heat," Oren said, motioning to a corner bench. "It'll help." She sat slowly, positioning herself so she could see both the door and him. A survival habit he recognized immediately. He filled a cup with warm water first. "Drink this before anything heavier," he said, placing it on the table within reach. "What should I call you?" She watched him for a moment, trying to read if sharing her name would cost her anything. "Irene Sale." "Oren Vale," he said. "This bond means you report here each day until it's cleared. But I won't work you until you recover. You're responsible now," Irene said, testing him. "I'm responsible for your well-being," Oren corrected. "Work comes later. It won't be degrading." He assessed her again. She was shaking less, but still tense. He prepared a plate. Crisp Varan root slices with salt, a small piece of pan-seared salt ram shoulder meat, and a cup of mild broth. He set it down and stepped back so she could choose to eat without pressure. She ate carefully at first, then with more focus once the warmth reached her fingers. "You own a tea house before this?" she asked. Her voice steadied slightly. "I started it 2 years ago," Oren said. "Quiet business. Feed me enough to keep going. And it let me do things my way." "You left military work," she said. "I can see it in how you move." He paused, surprised she noticed so quickly. "I left because I got tired of people being treated like problems that needed removing." He leaned against the counter. "I'd rather build something that keeps people standing." For the first time, Irene's posture shifted. The line of her shoulders lowered a fraction, not relaxed, but less guarded. "I didn't steal food," she said. "I worked without a permit because I needed to buy groceries for my cousins. We shared one room. I was caught. That's all." "You told me enough," Oren said. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we set a plan that gets you back on your feet and out of the bond cleanly." Her eyes remained fixed on him, searching for hidden motives. She wanted to believe him, but survival taught caution. Emotion, she felt wary hope. "Show." Her fingers loosened their grip on the coat, and she exhaled slowly. Rain continued to hit the windows, but inside the tea house the air grew warmer. Oren pulled out fresh linens and set them in a small back room. He didn't force her toward it. He pointed, then stepped away to give her privacy. Irene stayed seated for a long moment, absorbing the heat and the fact that no one was yelling or demanding anything from her. Oren cleaned the counter quietly, giving her the space to decide her next move. He planned to guide her through the steps she needed to regain independence, even if she didn't fully trust him yet. When she finally stood, she held the coat closer, then looked directly at him. "I'll stay tonight." "Good," Oren said. "You're safe here." She nodded once and walked toward the back room, moving with slow but steadier steps. The storm outside continued, but inside the Ninth Current, the air shifted, not to comfort or romance, but to the beginning of something that neither of them fully understood yet, grounded in necessity, respect, and a decision neither could take back now. Morning light pushed through the thin curtains of the tea house, soft and gray from the lingering rain. The Ninth Current was quiet, except for the gentle hum of the heat pipes warming the floor. Oren stepped into the main room with rolled sleeves and a calm focus. He had slept lightly, ready to intervene if Irene woke disoriented or tried to leave out of panic. She hadn't. The door remained locked, untouched through the night. Emotion, he felt cautious relief. Show. He let out a slow breath as he lit the first lamp, steadying his thoughts for the day ahead. He began heating water for breakfast, keeping movements quiet so she wouldn't feel rushed. He prepared soft varan root porridge with a small amount of salt ram fat melted in for flavor and to help restore her strength. He sliced thin pieces of spiced reef fish to dry for later, food she could eat gradually through the day without upsetting her stomach after long deprivation. Footsteps approached. Irene walked in wearing her tide wrap, still damp from the night before, his coat folded neatly over her arm. Her hair was dry now, but tangled, falling over one shoulder. She paused, scanning the room in the clear morning light. It looked different now, less like a rescue shelter and more like a workplace she might have to prove herself worthy of. "You slept?" Oren asked, without turning the moment into a checkup. "I did," she said. "Woke twice, but the door was closed. That helped." Her voice was steadier. She placed the folded coat on the counter, respecting its value. That small gesture told Oren she wasn't planning to treat his help as free charity. Emotion. She felt uncomfortable being cared for. Show. Her shoulders stayed tense, and she kept her hands at her sides, as if avoiding taking up space. "You don't have a change of clothes," Oren said, noticing the chill still clinging to her from the damp fabric. "We'll fix that today. Not fancy, just warm and practical." "I'll repay it," she replied quickly. "You will, but not today." He served the porridge and set a cup of warm kelp leaf infusion beside it. "Start with this." She sat. She tasted carefully, then ate with measured bites, as if someone might take the bowl away at any moment. When she finished, she set the spoon down with deliberate care, making no mess. Oren sat opposite her with plain seed coffee. "We should settle expectations so you're not guessing." A hint of alertness returned to her eyes. "I want to know what you intend for this bond." "I intend to get you through it clean," Oren said. "No humiliation. Reasonable tasks. We report on time. You recover strength first. After that, you help here in ways that use your skills. Then you leave with no penalties and no strings. You don't want a servant." Her tone carried disbelief more than curiosity. "I want you stable enough to choose your own direction after this ends." He paused before adding, "I don't take people in to own them." It was the first moment she looked at him directly without guarded suspicion. To avoid making her feel interrogated, he shifted the focus. "You mentioned cousins. Are they safe?" She hesitated, as if saying their names might place them at risk. "They're staying with another relative now. The fines left us behind on rent. I haven't seen them since the arrest." She adjusted her shawl, pulling it higher across her chest. "I need to finish the bond quickly so I can reach them." "That gives us a shared goal," Oren said. "We keep penalties off you, and we work within the rules. It takes 4 weeks if we pace it correctly." Her brows pulled together. "For weeks here? You can leave if you feel unsafe," he clarified. "But if you run, the penalty doubles and lands on both of us. I'm not locking the door on you. You stay because it's the smart move, not because I trap you." Emotion. She felt both relief and discomfort at the idea of safety without force. "Show." She tapped her fingers on the table, restless, torn between wanting to trust and fearing dependence. He stood. "Finish eating. We open the tea house today. You won't work the morning rush. You watch and get a sense of how things run. No serving until you're steady." She blinked, surprised. "You're letting me be seen here? You're not hidden." As she absorbed that, Oren moved to prepare the space. He placed stacked cups by size, checked the coin tray, then wiped the counter. Irene watched his method, organized but not rigid. She seemed to file the information away. A practical question surfaced for her. "If customers recognize me from the post, won't that cause trouble for your business?" "It's my door," Oren said. "I decide who sits inside it." His answer wasn't dramatic. It was grounded, spoken like someone who had already weighed the consequences. She rose and carried her bowl to the wash basin, rinsing it without being asked. Her posture was straighter than last night, as if recovering a piece of herself. Oren took a step toward the front door to set the open sign, but paused. Before we start, I need one thing clear. If anyone speaks to you with disrespect, you tell me. You don't handle that alone. She studied him, checking for hidden motives. She found none. And if they disrespect you because of me, then they can find tea somewhere else. A faint flicker crossed her face, something close to gratitude, but she held it close rather than showing it. The rain had stopped. The morning wind carried the deep tone of the wind organ across the terrace, steady and low. Oren unlocked the door and turned the sign to open. Irene remained near the counter, shoulders drawn back, prepared to face whoever walked through. Emotion. She felt nervous stepping into the world again. Show. Her hands clasped behind her back to stop them shaking. Oren glanced at her briefly. Whatever comes in today, we handle it. Together. He meant it, and she could tell. The first customer entered shortly after they opened. A dock worker with a patched coat and salt-stiff hair stepped inside, stamping water from his boots. He paused when he saw Irene behind the counter, recognition flickering across his face. His eyes dropped briefly to her ankle, as if expecting the cuff still there. Emotion. Irene felt tension grip her stomach. Show. She straightened, shoulders tight, hands clasped to hide a tremor. Oren's voice cut in before the silence could turn harsh. Morning. Seat wherever you like. Salt ram broth or seed coffee today. The worker blinked, then nodded and sat. The brief awkwardness passed, and Irene eased a breath out. Oren continued preparing drinks as if nothing unusual had happened, giving Irene space to adjust to being visible again. More customers arrived, 2 office clerks, an elderly couple, and a young courier carrying parcels. Some stared for a second too long, but no one spoke out. Irene stayed behind the counter, observing how Oren interacted, efficient, respectful, never hurried. He handled each order with the same level of care, whether cheap or expensive. She watched him grind Folan seed coffee, measure leaves for infusion, and plate food with controlled precision. It was clear he wasn't running this place to get rich. His movements showed intention, to make people feel steady for a moment, to keep her mind occupied instead of spiraling. Irene asked quietly, "What exactly do you want me to assist with when I start working?" "Organization first," Oren said while pouring coffee. "Stocking, labeling, wiping down tables, recording orders. Tasks where no one touches you or tests boundaries. Once you're comfortable, you can serve. You're expecting trouble from people," she noted. "I'm prepared for it," Oren replied. Not everyone likes change in their routines. He moved aside so she could observe the register. She memorized the layout quickly, someone who had worked small jobs before. As business slowed, near midday, Oren noticed her shifting foot to foot. "Sit. Your legs aren't used to standing this long after yesterday." "I don't want to look passive," she said, staying upright. "Rest isn't passivity," Oren replied, lightly tapping the bench with his fingers. "You're rebuilding strength. That's work." She finally sat, and her muscles eased. Sitting also gave customers a clearer view that she wasn't being hidden or placed below anyone. A middle-aged woman entered, neatly dressed with a clipped tone. She ordered a citrus tea and said with a rehearsed politeness, "Change of staff here, I see." Irene kept her expression still, but Oren caught the flicker of discomfort. "She's part of the team," Oren said. "If you need something, she can assist." The woman glanced directly at Irene. "You're that girl from the terrace yesterday." People talked. Irene's throat tightened. She met the woman's eyes. "Yes, I was there. Poor choices," the customer muttered. "Hopefully this place doesn't suffer because of them." Emotion. Oren felt irritation rise. "Show." His jaw set, and he placed the tea down with more weight than usual. "This place won't suffer," he said. "And she's standing on her own feet today, which is more than most would manage after that treatment." The woman stiffened, collected her tea, and left without further comment. The door shut behind her with a sharp thud. Silence held for a moment. Irene spoke first. "Your business might lose customers because of me. Then they weren't my customers to keep," Oren said. "People who walk out over you being here don't value this place for the right reasons. Emotion. She felt a small, steady warmth. Show. Her shoulders dropped slightly, and she exhaled through her nose as if unclenching inside. He continued wiping the counter. If someone disrespects you, I'll handle it. You don't argue with them. You don't defend your existence in my shop. I do. She studied him, trying to understand what he gained from this. You barely know me. Right now I know enough, he said, and I'll learn the rest as we go. She considered that, then nodded once. Afternoon settled into a calmer rhythm. After the last customer left, Oren locked the door briefly so they could take a break. He warmed leftover Varan root stew with a bit of pepper oil for flavor, served with crusty rye bread slices. The stew was thick, filling, with tender chunks that softened with each bite. Irene ate slowly, savoring the heat spreading through her chest. You ran this place alone before? She asked. Yes. Makes for long days. I don't mind. He took a sip of water. But having someone else here might make it more than routine. She looked around the shop with a more assessing eye. The space was modest but cared for. Shelves lined with labeled jars, a hand-drawn steam flavor chart pinned above the kettle, a small wooden box with handwritten customer notes. You built this after leaving patrol service? She asked. He had hinted at it earlier, but she hadn't heard why. After one job went bad, Oren said. He didn't pause the work of eating while he spoke. Civilian family caught in the middle. I started questioning what order actually meant. I left before I became someone who ignored the cost. He wiped his mouth with a napkin. I figured a small place that keeps people steady was more useful. Emotion. She felt respect form, reluctant but real. Show. Her gaze held on him longer than before, assessing with new context rather than suspicion. He stood and set his bowl aside. We'll reopen in 10. When we close tonight, you'll help with some light tasks. Nothing heavy. She nodded, then hesitated. You could have walked past me yesterday. I saw someone trying to survive a system that didn't care if you made it out. He met her eyes, steady and clear. I don't walk past that. The heat pipes hummed softly. Outside, footsteps passed, muted by the damp ground. Irene sat with her hands resting loosely around the warm bowl, body unclenching inch by inch. She wasn't safe because she trusted Oren. She was safe because he had created conditions where she didn't have to perform or defend herself to stay. He returned to the counter. Ready for the afternoon round? She set her bowl down with more confidence than she had shown that morning. Yes, I'm ready. He unlocked the door again, and they continued side by side. No rush, no roles forced, building a rhythm that felt like the first day of a life that could go somewhere better than either had planned. Night came with a steady drizzle that washed the terrace clean. After the last customer left, Oren locked the door and flipped the sign to closed. The tea house lights softened, leaving only the warm lamps above the counter and the glow from the heat pipes. Emotion. Irene felt tired but calmer than the night before. Show. She rubbed her forearm lightly, easing the stiffness from holding tension all day. You did well today, Oren said while stacking cups. You stayed present. You didn't shrink. I felt like everyone watched me, Irene admitted, waiting to see if I'd break. You didn't, he replied. That matters. He handed her a dry cloth. Light work. Wipe tables. Then rest. As she cleaned, Irene assessed the day in her mind. She replayed the moment the woman confronted her. The shame burned a little, but there was also a new thread of certainty. If someone tried that again, Oren wouldn't leave her alone to face it. After cleaning, Oren placed a small folded bundle on the counter. For you, clothes for tomorrow. Practical, warm. Irene opened the cloth. Inside lay a simple sea gray wrap dress made from breathable fabric, with short sleeves and adjustable ties at the waist. Not ornate, but would fit her body comfortably and cover her properly for work. You bought this today? She asked. On my break, he said. Your wrap is too thin for long days, and customers shouldn't see you shivering. I said I'll repay. You will, he cut in, through the bond tasks, not by rushing. Emotion. She felt conflicted gratitude. Show. She traced the stitching at the collar with her thumb, absorbing the effort behind it, then folded the dress carefully as if it were fragile. To settle her, Oren addressed what she hadn't said aloud. Your cousins. I need to know if retrieving them later will put you at risk. They're younger than me, she said quietly. I raised them after their mother died. When I was taken to the post, they had no food left. A neighbor took them in only for a few days. I need to reach them soon, before that help wears thin. Oren nodded, absorbing the unfinished weight in her voice. We'll factor that into the 4 weeks. When you're steady and the bond is halfway done, we'll make a plan. He meant it as a commitment, not comfort. He locked the cash drawer and moved to the back room to set out betting. Before you sleep, one more thing. I need to report the bond start at the registrar tomorrow. You should come with me. They'll take a record of your condition. Her eyes sharpened. Will they question you? Or try to take me back? They'll ask if you agreed to the transfer. You speak for yourself. If they see you're being treated well, we won't have trouble. She leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, processing. You trust I'll say the truth. If you didn't want this bond, you'd have run during the day, Oren said. You stayed. A small, dry exhale left her, half disbelief, half acknowledgement. He stepped away to give space. You can sleep now. Tomorrow starts early. Irene changed in the back room and returned wearing the new dress. The fabric fit, warming to her skin. It covered her shoulders enough to feel protected, yet the cut still allowed movement. She walked out and sat on the edge of the bench. Emotion, she felt unexpectedly seen. Show. Her fingers smoothed the dress at her knees, holding it with a kind of careful appreciation rather than detachment. It feels like I belong somewhere, she said, voice low. She seemed irritated at herself for saying it aloud, but she left the words there. Oren didn't pick them apart. Good. The place should work for you too. The rain eased outside, tapping lightly against the window panes. The wind organ on the slope below let out a low, calm tone. Irene stood. If I'm living here for now, I should know the rules of your house. Simple, Oren said. No locking yourself away unless you need space. You tell me if you're unwell. You eat 3 times a day. You rest when I say rest. And you don't call yourself a slave here. She absorbed each rule with a small nod. And your rules for yourself? I keep this place safe. I don't raise my voice inside these walls. And I don't make decisions for you that you can make yourself. That last part landed. She watched him long enough to test the sincerity of it. It held. She moved toward the back to sleep, then paused. Oren, if I fail at this, if people pressure you to remove me. He met her eyes directly. I don't bend to people who don't stand for anything. If I take a responsibility, I finish it. Emotion. She felt a steadying reassurance. Show. Her shoulders loosened, and she gave one brief, small nod that wasn't for politeness, but acceptance. She closed the back room door softly. Oren dimmed the lamps, leaving only one lit near the counter to guide her if she woke in the night. He sat for a moment, listening to the quiet. He planned to guide her through the steps she needed to regain her independence, even if she didn't fully understand them yet. Upstairs, the terrace lights reflected off the wet stone, and for the first time since the bond began, the night held a sense of direction rather than survival. Light filtered through the front windows before the sign turned to open. Oren unlocked the door early because today needed a calmer start. The rain had stopped, leaving the terrace smelling of wet stone and cooled metal. Irene finished setting clean cups on the counter, her new dress fitting more naturally now after a night of rest. Emotion, she felt steady but alert about the registrar visit. Show, she kept smoothing the fabric near her waist, then forced her hands to stay still. Oren checked the clock. We leave in 10. Registrar won't take long if we're clear and direct. Irene nodded. I'll answer myself. I don't want them thinking you put words in my mouth. That will help, he said, tying his sleeves higher. They looked for signs of coercion. She hummed a short sound, agreement mixed with unease. Is there anything I shouldn't say? Just the truth, Oren replied. If you're unsure, pause. You don't know them details about your cousins or past employers. Before stepping out, Oren handed her a light cloak to wear over the dress. Wind's cold by the steps. Wear this. She slid it on, surprised by the quiet practicality behind the gesture. You prepare for everything. It avoids problems later, he said, with a small lift of one shoulder. They walked down the terrace toward the registrar building. It was a narrow structure of pale stone and metal frames, with a quiet line of people waiting inside. Some were bond transfers, others filing work permits or domestic agreements. Irian stayed close, but not behind him. She wanted to stand beside him, not under him. Inside, the waiting bench was cold. A clerk called their turn quickly, likely expecting a simple confirmation. The registrar was a clean-cut man with tidy gestures and a polite, professional smile. Bond transfer for Irian sale, assumed by Orenvale. I need a statement from both of you. Irian sat upright, cloak folded over her lap. The clerk looked to Oren first. You assumed this bond willingly? Yes, Oren said. Intention. To complete it properly and maintain her well-being during the period, Oren replied. The registrar typed. No raised brows, no challenge. He turned to Irian. Did you agree to the transfer? You may reject it now without penalty. Emotion. A brief flicker of fear rose. Show. Her fingers gripped the cloak edge, knuckles pale. Yes, she said, voice controlled. I agreed. I was at the discipline post. He paid the bond and removed me. He's provided shelter and food. No threats. No force. The registrar studied her for signs of rehearsed lines. Does he restrict your movement or communication? No, she answered. He tells me to rest more than I want. The registrar's expression loosened. Mild approval. Good. Bond is valid. Ending date stands. Weekly check-in required, either in person or via written report. I'll bring her in, Oren said. No issue. As they left the building, the wind organ on the lower terrace let out a softer note than yesterday. On the walk back, Irian released a slow breath. Emotion. Relief washed through her. Show. Her shoulders eased, and she let the cloak fall open to the breeze. They expected you to speak for me, she said. Most bondholders do, Oren replied. Not interested in that dynamic. You don't match what people expect from someone in control. Control isn't the job. Responsibility is. Back at the tea house, the midday rush came quickly. Irian helped restock shelves and filled water jugs, watching Oren's routine so she could blend into it. Customers came and went. Some greeted her neutrally. One nodded in acknowledgement, small progress. Near closing, a man in his late 20s entered. Trim clothes, neat hair, and a confident stride. He sat at the counter, eyes lingering on Irian with casual interest. You knew, he said. Oren, trading staff? Didn't think you needed help. She's not staff yet, Oren said, keeping his tone even. Bond placement. She's assisting while recovering strength. The man nodded, then directed his attention back to Irian. Bond work here must be easier than the docks. Lucky placement. Emotion. Discomfort tightened her chest. Show. Her spine stiffened, and her gaze shifted to Oren briefly before she answered. I work, Irian said calmly. Luck wasn't part of it. Oren placed the man's drink down. She earns her place like anyone. The man raised both hands in a shrug. Didn't mean offense. Just saying, most bonds end worse than they start. Oren didn't engage further. His silence was more effective. When the man left, Irian reached for a cloth, cleaning a spot on the counter that didn't need it. People talk like I'm a temporary object. You're adjusting faster than they are, Oren said. They'll catch up or leave. After closing, Oren prepared dinner. He pan-seared reef fish in a small amount of cayenne pepper oil and served it over thin slices of baked root bread. Irian watched him cook, noticing how he controlled the heat and tasted before plating. You said I'll start tasks, she said. When do I truly begin? Tomorrow, he answered. A half shift. You'll take orders from the tables closest to the counter. I'll be beside you. She nodded once, accepting the next step. Before turning in for the night, she spoke from the doorway of the back room. If I stay for weeks, get stable, and retrieve my cousins, what then? Do you expect me to stay here after? No, Oren said. I expect you to choose. If staying helps you or them, we'll talk. If not, I'll help you move forward. Emotion. She felt a mix of caution and hope. Show. Her hand lingered on the doorframe for a moment before she stepped inside. He turned off the lamps one by one, leaving the warm light near the stairs. He wasn't building attachment. He was building a path. Whether she would keep walking it with him was something neither of them was ready to answer yet. The next morning arrived with a pale sky and a light wind blowing across the terrace. Oren unlocked the shop early again, wanting Irene to settle into the rhythm before customers arrived. She moved with more certainty than the day before, tying her sea gray dress at the waist with practiced motions. Her hair was combed and braided loosely over one shoulder, making her look composed, not intimidated. Emotion. She felt determined to prove she was worth a chance. She took a slow breath, squared her stance, and checked the tables with focused care. Oren placed a slim notepad and pencil on the counter. Today you observe the first orders, then take the next two yourself. I won't make mistakes, she said. You will, Oren replied. That's part of learning. I just need you present. Her jaw relaxed a fraction. His consistency made her feel as if failure wouldn't collapse everything. Customers began to trickle in. Oren handled the first orders, speaking clearly so Irene could pick up the cadence. Greet, note drink, confirm food, maintain eye contact for a second so the person felt seen, then move. Irene watched, hands clasped behind her back, repeating the steps silently. When the time came for her first order, she approached a table of two dockhands eating early before their shift. She held the notepad in front of her and kept her voice steady. Good morning. What can I bring for you? They ordered salt ram stew and seed coffee. She wrote quickly, confirmed, then brought the order to Oren without dropping her focus. Emotion. She felt a spark of pride at executing correctly. When she stepped away, her shoulders rose slightly, a small breath of confidence slipping through. The next customer tested her resolve. A woman from the administrative levels sat at a corner table with a tight, judgmental stare. She didn't speak to Irene directly. Instead, she waved her fingers in a dismissive gesture. I'll order with him, the woman said, chin lifted toward Oren. Irene held position, hands folded at her waist. I can take it. The woman exhaled sharply. Fine. Brewed seed coffee. Medium. No burnt aftertaste this time. Irene didn't flinch. Medium strength seed coffee. Fresh batch. I'll bring it shortly. She delivered the order, no mistakes. The woman gave a short, unwilling nod when the flavor was correct. That nod mattered more than a compliment. When the rush slowed, Irene leaned on the counter for a moment. People are more willing to let me serve than I expected. They'll follow your lead if you stay steady, Oren said, handing her a glass of water. You're not invisible anymore. That's the difference. He noticed the way she tracked customers entering. Her gaze always swept the door first, then the space between tables, then exits. A survival habit. There's something you haven't asked, Oren said while organizing jars. Where I sleep. She blinked, surprised he brought it up. I assumed you slept upstairs or in that small loft by the back. I have a room above the kitchen. You won't be sharing a space with me. The back room is yours until you're ready to choose what's next. That small bit of clarity grounded her further. She hadn't known how to ask without sounding suspicious. By late afternoon, after a steady day of orders, Oren suggested a short break outside. He handed her a warm slice of baked root bread with a thin layer of melted herb butter. She took it with both hands, feeling the heat soften the chilled skin of her fingers. They sat on the bench outside the shop. The terrace was quieter now, splashes of sunlight breaking through passing clouds. People passed by, some giving Irene curious looks, but without the sharp edge of yesterday. Oren ate his bread in silence at first, letting her get used to being seated outside in public without being on display. After a minute, he spoke. You handled the disrespect this morning well. You didn't shrink. You stayed professional, he said. I spoke the way you did, she admitted. Neutral, direct. It worked. It works because it leaves no space for people to play with your dignity. She took that in, chewing slowly. A thought surfaced from yesterday, one she hadn't voiced. When the registrar looked at me, I expected him to ask how I ended up there. He didn't. He's not paid to care about the context, Oren said. Only the paperwork. If I had said I regretted transferring the bond, would they have taken me back? Yes. It would restart the 4 weeks under someone else, not guaranteed safe. Her throat tightened. She stared at the terrace floor for a moment. I made the right decision. Oren didn't say, "I know." He simply nodded, allowing her to own it. When they went back inside, a small group entered. 3 young men, similar age to Oren, carrying the confident energy of people who believed they owned any space they walked into. They sat together, talking loudly. One of them pointed at Irene openly. "You're the girl from the Post. Didn't think they'd release you so fast." He grinned. "Working off your debt here? Bet it's an easier arrangement." Emotion, a wave of humiliation hit her hard. Show. Her fingers tightened on the cloth she was carrying, knuckles sharp against the fabric. Oren stepped in, tone controlled but firm. "Order something or leave. This isn't a place for commentary." The young man raised his brows, amused. "Relax, we're just having fun." "I'm not," Oren said. "Menus on the table. Decide." The quiet steel in his voice made the man's smile drop. They ordered. Nothing further was said. After they left, Irene cleaned the table slowly, wiping the same spot twice before she realized it. Oren approached, leaning his hands on the back of a chair. "I won't let anyone talk to you like that," he said. "But you need to learn when to walk away, not absorb everything." "I'm not used to someone stepping in," she said. "Usually, I had to endure to keep a job. You don't endure disrespect here." Her throat worked as she swallowed, not from fear this time, but from the weight of being defended. Evening approached, and Oren closed shop slightly early. He placed 2 bowls of stew on the table and motioned for her to sit. The stew was rich tonight, salt ram shoulder cut into tender pieces, simmered with root vegetables and thin strips of sea leaf. As they ate, Irene finally voiced the question resting under her ribs all day. "Why help me this far? You didn't just remove me from a post. You're investing time, food, clothes, reputation, for someone you met in the rain." He set his spoon down. "Because the system punishes desperation more than harm. You weren't dangerous. You were hungry. That shouldn't cost someone their self-worth." His answer was simple, steady, without self-praise. Emotion, something inside her unlocked slightly. Trust, not full but forming. "Show." She looked down, blinked hard once, then continued eating with calmer breaths. When she stood to clean up, he stopped her with a small motion. "Rest. Your first serving day took more from you than you think." She obeyed without argument, a sign of growing comfort rather than submission. Before turning in, she paused at the back room door once more. "Today felt different. Because you weren't surviving," Oren said. "You were part of something." She gave a small nod, stepped inside, and closed the door. For the first time, she wasn't falling asleep only because exhaustion demanded it. She was resting in a place where tomorrow held structure, not threat. A week passed with a steady rhythm. Irene worked short shifts, gradually taking on more responsibility. She learned the layout of the tea house, the regular customers' preferences, and how Oren adjusted the menu depending on the weather. Her movements became smoother, her voice more confident when speaking to customers. She no longer hesitated before approaching a table. On the 7th morning, Oren found her already awake, folding linens at the counter. She wore the sea gray dress and had pinned her braid to keep it neat during work. She looked more rested than at any point since he met her. Emotion, Oren felt quiet pride, seeing her take initiative. "Show." He paused at the doorway, arms crossed, a small nod forming before he spoke. "You're settling in," he said. "I needed routine," Irene replied, keeping her hands busy. "It makes the days stop blending together." "We'll add a new task today," Oren said. "You'll learn the brew station. Not the full menu, just the basics." She froze briefly, then set the linens down. "If I ruin someone's drink." "You won't," he said. "I'll check the first few." He stepped beside her, close enough to guide but not crowd. He showed her the sea grinder first, how to adjust it depending on customer preference. Fine for strong, coarse for mild. She repeated his motions, trying to match his calm precision. The first time she poured water too fast, Oren placed 2 fingers gently near the rim of the cup, not touching her but guiding her pace. She slowed, breathing out through her nose. Emotion, she felt a flicker of embarrassment. Show, a faint flush touched her cheeks, but she didn't pull away or shut down. "You correct and keep moving," Oren said. "That's what matters." By midday, She successfully served 3 drinks without correction. Customers accepted them without complaint. One even complimented the smooth brew. During a brief lull, Irene leaned on the counter. "When you first saw me at the post, what did you think?" Before you spoke, he took a moment to answer honestly. "I saw someone who hadn't given up. You were freezing and humiliated, but you were still holding your back straight. That told me you weren't broken, just cornered." Her breath caught quietly. She held on to that sentence, as if it confirmed something she hadn't allowed herself to believe. In the afternoon, Oren handed her a folded note. "A supplier underpaid you at the day job before the post." "Yes," she said, surprised he remembered. "They promised full credit for 2 days' work. Gave half, said the rest was lost fees." "I filed a small claim yesterday," Oren said. "If it goes through, you'll get the missing credits in 2 weeks." She stared at him, unsure how to respond. "You're fixing things I didn't ask you to fix. You shouldn't have to ask for what you're owed." Emotion. She felt a mix of relief and discomfort. Being helped was still unfamiliar. "Show." She rubbed her thumb over the edge of the note, eyes lowered but soft. Later, a familiar face entered, the same neatly dressed man who had made the Lucky Bond comment days ago. Today he walked in alone, quieter, expression less smug. He sat at the counter. "I owe you an apology," he told Irene, surprising them both. "I spoke without thinking last time. That was wrong." Irene watched him carefully. "Thank you for saying it." He nodded, ordered his drink, and left without another remark. Emotion. Irene felt grounded by the shift. Respect earned, not demanded. "Show." She exhaled slowly, her shoulders dropping from a tension she hadn't noticed she held. As evening approached, Oren suggested closing early again, not because of trouble, but because of progress. "You handled today well," he said while wiping down the stove. "You showed people how to treat you without raising your voice or shrinking. I didn't think anyone would ever correct themselves toward me," she admitted. "You said people would adjust. I didn't believe it." "It takes time," Oren replied, "but they follow the tone we set." He served dinner at the back table, grilled salt ram slices seasoned with sea herbs with a side of roasted root vegetables. They ate quietly at first, the meal warm and filling. Halfway through, Irene spoke. "After the bond, if I choose not to stay here, would you still help me find my cousins and a place to live?" "Yes," Oren said immediately. "The bond isn't a trade. I don't expect repayment with loyalty. Your life is yours." She lowered her gaze. "People don't usually do this much without wanting something in return." He held her eyes. "I don't want ownership. I want your life to stop being something you have to survive." Emotion. Trust deepened, cautious but real. "Show." Her hands relaxed around the cup, fingers no longer curled tight. After they cleaned up, Irene lingered by the counter instead of heading to the back room immediately. "There's something I need to say," she said quietly. "When people look at me here, they don't only see the girl at the post anymore. That's because of how you stand beside me. You're doing the work," Oren said. "I'm just making sure people don't drag you backward." She took in his words with a steady inhale. Her next sentence wasn't an emotional outburst. It was measured, honest. "I'm not afraid of tomorrow here." That sentence held more impact than gratitude or praise. Oren nodded once. "Good. Tomorrow, you'll learn the lunch menu." She smiled. Not wide, but genuine, small, and earned. She stepped into the back room to rest, closing the door softly behind her. Oren extinguished the lamps, leaving the soft glow of the heat pipes. The tea house no longer felt like a temporary shelter for her. It was becoming a place she could stand in without apology. Morning sunlight reflected off the terrace, clear and steady. The first bright day since Irene had arrived. The ninth current felt different. Not because anything large had changed, but because Irene moved through it with a sense of belonging rather than borrowed space. She tied her braid neatly, adjusted her dress, and stepped into the main room with a calm she hadn't carried before. Emotion. She felt ready for the next stage, not just surviving. Show. Her steps were firm, her chin lifted, and she didn't hold her hands clasped for safety. Oren was already prepping ingredients for the lunch menu. Salt ram stock simmering with herbs, root vegetables sliced, in uniform pieces. The air carried a warm, savory scent. He looked up as she approached. "You come a long way in a week," he said. "Today, I want you to run the front for an hour. I'll stay near the counter, but you lead." Irene blinked, then nodded. "I can do that." "You can," Oren confirmed, handing her the order slate. Customers respond to steadiness. You've earned their respect. Before opening, Irene took a moment near the doorway. She pressed her palm briefly to the wood, anchoring herself. For the first time, she wasn't worried about being seen. She wanted to be. Customers came in a steady flow. Irene greeted each one clearly, took orders without hesitation, and coordinated with Oren smoothly. A group of 3 returned from earlier in the week, the ones who had mocked her. This time, they behaved. They placed their orders without smirks or remarks. One of them even said, "Food tastes better here lately." Irene didn't react emotionally. She simply answered, "Thank you. Enjoy your meal," and moved on. She didn't need their approval to feel grounded, but she recognized the shift. Halfway through her hour leading the front, an older woman entered, dressed modestly, calm face, tired eyes. She sat quietly, watching Irene move through the shop before placing a simple order of tea and bread. When Irene brought it over, the woman spoke gently. "You seem strong. Not many stand back up after public discipline." "I had support this time," Irene said. The woman nodded once. Everyone deserves one person who sees them as more than a mistake. Emotion. Irene felt acknowledged by a stranger for the right reason. Resilience, not pity. Show. Her breath left her slowly, and she placed the tea down with careful gratitude. By late afternoon, the rush eased. Oren flipped the sign to close once more. No tension, no early closure due to conflict, just a natural end to a stable day. After cleaning, Oren set out dinner. Baked root bread topped with seasoned salt ram slices and a side of warm sea leaf sautéed in garlic oil. They sat across from each other at the back table, an unspoken sense of progress hanging between them. When they finished eating, Oren leaned forward slightly. "Your bond is progressing well. If we continue like this, you'll clear it without penalty." "And after I clear it?" Irene asked, voice steady this time. Not fearful, but genuinely curious. "What do you see happening then?" "You'll choose," Oren said. "Whether you stay here, find work elsewhere, or go retrieve your cousins first. I'll help you with whichever path you choose." "You keep saying choice," she noted softly, almost testing the word. "Because you didn't have it before," he said. "You do now." The truth of it settled deep. She wasn't being prepared for dependence. She was being prepared for freedom. Irene stood and walked to the front door. The terrace outside was calm, lanterns beginning to glow as evening approached. She opened the door and stepped outside. Oren followed, but didn't speak. He let her take the moment without guidance. She looked out at Surrealist Quay, the place where she had been chained in rain only days ago. The same terrace, same stones, but the meaning had shifted completely. She wasn't on display anymore. She wasn't being removed from sight. She was standing here of her own will. Emotion, a quiet, full sense of reclaiming herself, rose inside her. Show. She lifted her head, inhaled deeply through her nose, and her shoulders relaxed. Not from relief, but from strength. Oren waited behind her, hands in his pockets, giving her space. "I thought freedom meant leaving places behind," Irene said. "But maybe it means returning and not feeling small." "That sounds like freedom to me," Oren replied. She turned to him. "When my bond ends, I want to bring my cousins here. Not as a burden. To show them a place where they don't have to apologize for needing help." "If that's what you want, we'll make room," Oren said. "No one should rebuild alone." Irene held his gaze for a long moment. Not searching for lies, confirming truth she now trusted. She stepped closer, not clingy, not uncertain, just close enough that if one of them moved a few inches forward, it would become something unmistakably intimate. She didn't touch him. She didn't need to. The choice was already forming, slow and steady, on her terms. "We're not finished with the bond," she said, voice lower, more personal. "But I don't feel trapped anymore." "You're not," Oren answered. The evening breeze moved across the terrace. For the first time, The sound of the wind organ below didn't echo loneliness. It matched the stillness settling inside both of them. They stood there together at the threshold of the tea house. Not rescuer and rescued, not bondholder and bonded, but two people who had started something neither of them expected, built on stability, dignity, and a future that was beginning to take shape. Irian walked back inside first, not out of retreat, but because this place was hers now too. Oren followed, closing the door behind them. Not to lock her in, but to mark the end of a chapter neither would ever have to repeat.